the roads.
Oh, cool.
Okay. I mean, this place, right?
Yes, you got the good shirt on. I
Yeah.
just wore.
I wore it intentionally.
Good. I just wore it. I just wore that shirt yesterday.
You are live.
Okay, we're live.
Okay. Ready?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Greg with the Shadow Hour, and I would like to go ahead and introduce to you two very special people from Indiana. You got Jenn and Steve Hodgson, and
Hey, guys.
they are a paranormal group, or actually paranormal paid, a pair from Indiana. And what's really, really cool is that out of all the things that have been happening lately, I had the opportunity to meet Jenn through some of my classes, and I had seen Steve come in and out, and it was pretty cool just to have the people around, and they have become my family. So let me go ahead and just start out and just put a little couple things out there for everybody that's been watching. That, you know, we've got that ghost tour, Lake County Ghost Tour, this Sunday at out of, oh, now I forgot the name of the town. Anyway, tickets are available through hauntedlakecounty.com. And so let's go and get right to it now that I'm getting flustered again. Let me say, could you guys go ahead and give us the name of your group, of your pair, and what you've been into and what you haven't this year?
What we haven't? Well,
the name of our group is Professional Paranormal Investigations. We prefer to be called PPI. It's a little easier on the breath syndrome. As we get older, we don't have as much breath in one shot, so PPI is good. We're here in Indiana. We've been investigating now for
10 years.
10 years, at least 10 years here. Got a great investigative crew with us, which is really good. They're all personal friends of ours, so we know when they say something, we know it's true, you know, and we know they're also looking out for our backs at all time during an investigation. And you really have to. We do a lot of public places, but we also do a lot of private homes. That's one of our big things still, probably one of the few groups still out there doing that. But I still want to go out and help people that need help in their homes. Now with COVID, obviously, we've had a little bit of a distance on that for health reasons for everyone concerned. But we hope to be back to that soon.
You know, when you brought up the fact of, you know, your other team members have your backs, you know, that's really of a vital importance in the paranormal these days, because Lord only knows what you're going to run into out there, especially on some of those crazier places. And
Absolutely.
not that there's demons in every place. It doesn't have to be. It could be something entirely different as far as that's concerned. So,
well, when you're at a person's home too, you got to worry about the human aspect more than the demonic aspect, because you don't really know who the homeowners are unless it's, you know, someone knows them personally. So, you know, we've been in situations where, you know, your eyes. I was brought up in New York City. My dad was a cop in New York City, so she'll even tell you when I'm sitting in a restaurant, I don't sit with my back to the door, and my eyes are all over the place because I'm not going to be surprised by something taking place. I want to know what's going to happen. So it actually helps if I know, like we have Elvin, who's a bigger guy than I am, you know, broader shoulders and all. Plus he's younger, which helps. And you know, he's always behind us, so we know that we're protected there. Same thing with Paul. You know, he's looking out for all of us. So, and then of course we also have Jake, who's probably bigger than all of us. You know, muscle and stuff. So it's actually good. You know, we watch out for everybody at all times.
Do you end up going to some locations where you're going to need all that backup?
Yes and no. It really just depends on where it is. It's not just the homeowners, but it's also the locations that you go to, because
Right.
sometimes some of the neighborhoods just aren't the best neighborhoods in the world. And so you really need to be careful in that sense too. And, when we do go to these locations, we try to kind of ride together. So this way we don't have 5 and 6 cars pulling up into a place where it's drawing attention to the area, and making people realize, okay, these are new people here, so let's go and investigate and see what's going on and maybe do some damage to the cars. So we try to keep it as low key as possible when it comes to that.
That's where I was going to go with that, would be that the only other way you could go ahead and accomplish that would be if you had somebody that had a concealed carry.
Right, which we
We
do.
actually, both of us are able to, we're licensed
I
to
think
carry.
most of the group
Yeah.
is, but the fact is that I'd hate to go on an investigation and carry a gun with me. I mean, I really, if it's that kind of a situation where it's really that bad, I'll pass.
I was at a location about 3 or 4 years ago with GRS, which Ghost Research Society, and I'm
Mhm.
still a member with them too. So I'm with two different groups, and we were at a location outside of Indianapolis that was in the middle of nowhere in the country. It's Thornhaven,
Mhm.
and
It's a
1:30
good
at
area,
night.
bud.
Yes, but I mean, still, here you had all of a sudden we saw a light, and we looked out and way down at the street, and there's a gate, or not a gate, there's a chain on in front of there, and there were 3 cars down there, and people were outside of the cars pointing at the house like they were going to come. So it's like, whoa, I think we need to pack everything up and get out before we run into somebody that all of a sudden wants all our gear.
It's a fear. I mean, there was a place we were supposed to investigate in Indianapolis, and Jen and I went to do the prelim because a lot of times I really wanted, if I don't know the person through someone, I want to do a preliminary investigation
Right.
because anyone that watches TV can give us the best story in the world,
Yeah.
And at least when we're there, her being a psychic medium, I'm sensitive. We can tell, good judge of whether or not there really is something going on. And plus, where I'm bringing the team to on top of that. And we showed up in this one neighborhood, and I mean, I was not comfortable. When we showed up, it seems like as we were pulling down the block, the people that were at the house left. I don't know why they'd leave 5 minutes before our agreed meeting time. Like we're supposed to meet at 3 o'clock, and at 5 to 3, they pulled out when we were pulling up. And we just decided, we waited 10 minutes, we rang the bell, nobody was there. I got back in the car and said, we're out of here. And, they called us back a few times. And I'm like, listen, we were there. Okay, we did our part. You weren't, and that's it. And just left it at that. But I really would have been too concerned about our safety when we left. And, heck, she'll tell you one of the bad things I have the keyless entry to the car. And for some reason, my hand, or if it's in my pocket, always hits the trunk. Okay, she's laughing, but it's the truth. We did an entire investigation at somebody's house with my trunk open.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you leave the trunk open in some neighborhoods, you'll come back and maybe all you'll have is the mat for the trunk still there, but that's going to be about it. So, we were smart enough not to, stay that long there, but it was a good neighborhood. We haven't, knock on wood, we've yet to be any place where we've been worried while
Well,
we're
that's
investigating.
great.
Because you got to concentrate on what you're doing. I can't be worrying about what's going on outside while we're inside.
The only place that we've ever really they did go out and check on the vehicles, was the one place that I think they tore down. It was that church that we did in Cincinnati. The
what was the one that was on Ghost Adventures to Saddamsville
yeah.
in Cincinnati?
Mhm.
And that really wasn't that great of a neighborhood either.
Yeah, it's like every time we took a break, everybody went out and checked their vehicles to make
You know,
sure
during like
everything
you
was-
walk by a window, you'd look out the
everybody,
window.
yeah,
down
I
to see
mean,
your
like
car.
everybody was kind of checking on everybody's cars and everything else because it just wasn't, the safest place to really.
We were on a place in Cleveland. We
Mhm.
were on an investigation. We did Fairport Harbor, I think it was, the lighthouse.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
And during the afternoon, Dale, we got in like two different vehicles and drove around, and we stopped at the castle. I can't think of the name of the castle, but the castle, and then we went to, was the Odd People's, is it-
The
Oddfellows.
Oddfellows.
was it a huge temple like building?
Mhm.
And when we pulled up there, it was like, I'm not even getting out of the car. And when you were talking earlier about, doing a pre-investigation, my whole idea for a long time now, I'm getting notices about it,
Yes.
and I'll bring it up in a second, but I was always, when we would go into something like that, I would always want Sharon with me, or we had another lady that was a medium at the time to go in just on that, just to get a little idea better off what was really there.
Mhm.
Because then it was like, well, then you knew right away what was going on. And like you said, Steve, about the people that watch too much TV, you could have the top 10 list. We had one last year that every item on the top 10 of what would happen in your house, you could check them off as they were talking.
But they also know the keywords
Right.
and stuff to get you concerned. We have children in the house.
Right.
The children are scared. They won't sleep in their bedroom. It's bothering the kids and stuff. So they play a little bit at your heartstrings on
Oh,
top of that too. And I mean, we've been fairly lucky. I think we've only been at 2 investigations. One, there was absolutely nothing going on. I mean, we did the whole investigation, not one thing, nothing in the evidence, nothing happening that night. And mind you, half of our team got lost going to this house. So it would kind of ticked us off a little bit. But the second one was, see, I was an auditor for like 17 years, an internal auditor for a company. So if you tell me the sky was blue at 3:00 today, and a month from now you tell me the sky was blue at 3:12, bells go off. Don't ask me why. Even at this age, I can still remember and know something's wrong. Well, this woman and her husband gave us a story that was going on and then changed the story. This one here, she was in the room with them. I wasn't.
You want me to tell them what I said?
No, we're on Facebook
No,
Live.
it was a clean version. So when I heard that and I realized that they were lying and making up a bunch of stories, I walked into the bedroom where Steve and Jake were at, and I said, "That's it. She's lying. It's over. We're out." And that was it. That was the end of the investigation. We wrapped it up, and we pretty much left.
But you know what the worst part of that investigation was? Now I don't know if if with your groups, if you did it, we don't allow children under 18
right.
in an investigation. Just don't. I won't. I'm sorry. I'll go home. I really won't do it. And the reason for that is, as I tell people, if something happens, I'm pretty confident an adult can take care of themselves. If
Because-
Beelzebub comes out of the wall, okay, it's every man and woman for themselves at that point. But I don't want someone to have to worry about taking care of a child and not taking care of themselves. So, and plus, mentally, that has to screw with a kid's mind. Okay, just its psyche of the child. And I don't want that to happen. Well, in that home, she said she had 3 kids. And she said her mother came to pick up the kids and the dog, and they were going to Walmart. And they were going to drive around and get lost. So we're like, great, no problem. She had these kids sitting outside in the car in the driveway. It was like minus 10 degrees outside,
Yeah.
snow everywhere. And we had no idea that they were outside in the car the entire time we were there. Luckily, we called it early and they actually saw her get out of the car, the kids get out of the car, and she left them out. They were allowed to turn on the car for
Like
5 minutes every hour
Yeah.
just to turn on some heat for a few minutes and then had to turn the
I
engine
mean,
off.
it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. And it's like when all of that started to unfold, one of our other investigators is like, hey, there's lights on outside. And so then we started to listen to other things that was going on. And that's when it was like, yeah, no, it's over. It's over. So we told her just bring the kids in because there's no point in doing that to those kids.
Didn't the woman ever hear anything about carbon monoxide poisoning?
Evidently she didn't care. And then she wanted us to leave our equipment. We're like, no, we're not leaving our
It's like,
equipment.
could you leave it overnight so we can film? It's like, no.
Yeah.
So we can play with it. Anyway, we've got some people that have
Sure.
made some posts, and Ron Lovett says hi.
Hi.
Jessica Moritz says hi, Greg. I thought your guest was my mom when I first saw her.
Hopefully you're talking about her.
That's Sharon. That's Sharon, of course.
Woohoo!
Yeah, okay.
That's all right. I take that as a big, huge compliment.
Because otherwise her mom's got a nice beard. I don't.
Devin Evans says hi.
Hey, Devin.
Everyone.
Hi, Devin.
And Danny Botts says, hey, Greg, good to see you guys. And Dan Botts is a member of Shadowhunters,
Okay.
and he just got out of the hospital 10 days in a row for pneumonia.
Oh, wow.
So he was pretty sick, and he's one of my friends I go to breakfast with.
Oh, yeah.
And he's one of the key people as far as the historical societies are concerned.
Uh-huh.
So he really got sick.
Well, I'm glad he's home now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we'll continue to send him some healing for sure.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And, I just thought I'd better mention it because he's a lot bigger than me, because if I don't, he might sit on me.
Oh.
And we got the pleasure of meeting Devin a few weeks ago at Popestown.
Yeah.
When they had their
At
non-com that was there. And actually, while she went strolling with Jen and her friend, I actually got to man her booth for a little bit, and
That's all right.
They're all beautiful people, everybody
Yes, they
on the
are.
list. And Tony, who is Jessica's sister, says hi. That's Sharon's other daughter. And then
Hi.
Arlene Glencross says hi.
oh, we know
Hey,
Arlene. Now, Arlene is coming to you straight from Edinburgh, Scotland.
Oh, really?
Yes.
She's a friend
Awesome.
of ours from Scotland.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Hi, Arlene.
Arlene, hi. Not that I'm anybody to know.
Oh, you are.
Arlene
You
and
are
I
somebody to
send-
know.
Arlene and I send some jokes back and forth that neither one of us can post on Facebook.
Uh-oh.
So we sort of as private messages, and they're funny jokes is what they are, but some people might be offended by them. And I'm one of those people, I just have a sense of humor. I mean, I was a big fan of, now I'm going to show my age, but you would know, someone like Don Rickles, okay,
Yes.
who offended everybody. It's just a joke. That's all it is. It's not to be taken seriously.
Right.
So, yeah.
What's really, really cool, though, about a lot of these people, though, is you can see how they rally around Sharon, too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And she's had some difficulties this last week with family friends that have passed and that. So,
Yeah. I saw that.
we always try to send our prayers to her as
Yes.
far as that's concerned. And then when we skip from that, we'll go into an area that's called equipment. And I imagine everybody would like to know what your favorite pieces are.
Well, one of my newest favorite pieces of equipment is these Wisecam pan cameras. They're like about this big. They sit on a little thing and you can plug into the wall. And it eliminates the DVR. It eliminates all those cords. everything. I mean, no tripods, no nothing. Just stick it on a shelf. It works with your phone. As far as pointing it is concerned, you
Oh,
use your
wow.
wireless network, a hotspot. You point it, and then you turn your phone back off of the hotspot, and it works perfectly. It records sound. It records HD video, and you can watch each one back on your computer. And we put 10 cameras in one case. And usually for 10 cameras, we'd have one case. We'd have a big bag that's got tripods, another big bag that's got wires for those tripods. We have a case that's
Wow.
for the DVR, another case that has the wires for the DVRs. And all of this is just one little case now to just walk away with. Absolutely phenomenal.
Mhm.
Now, it has one drawback we found so far. If you get into an area that does not have a phone signal,
Right.
you're not going to be able to really point it.
Mhm.
But the cameras are on the moment you plug it in, so you can still put it there. You just can't point it to where you want to point it towards. But
Wow,
it's still worth it. It was, and then like $40 a camera.
that's a
That's
lot
it.
better than trying to drag all those totes.
Yes.
Oh, the bags that we have were those big gym bags
Yeah.
that probably weighed what, about 40, 50 pounds a bag.
I don't know. They're
And
pretty.
stuff,
They're
so-
pretty heavy. I don't know about 40 or 50
No.
pounds, but they are heavy.
Like you can't, they're about 40, 50 pounds.
Yeah, I carried
Those
those.
bags.
I've carried those.
But as
What's
far
the-
as regular equipment is concerned, what would you use?
I don't know. He had a question. What was
Yeah,
that?
No,
Greg?
no, go ahead. That's where I was going.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
For me, I really don't use a lot of equipment. I mean, the most I would probably use is like my dowsing rods. But that's really it. Maybe the SLS. I
The SLS camera is
might be-
nice.
That might be the only other thing that I would use. But as far as anything else, I really don't use a lot of equipment. I pick up a lot of things just myself.
Here's
Right.
my theory on it, and I always tell people, because that same question you asked about what's our favorite piece of equipment, we get asked when we do our library presentations and everything else. And my answer is very simple: my eyes and my ears. They're the best equipment, because while somebody's sitting there looking down at an obelisk or something like that, something could pass right in front of you, and you're not going to see it because your head's looking down at one of the boxes that's there. I mean, I've watched even my own team, and we've talked about it, and we don't do it as much, but I've watched the whole room where everybody's looking down at a piece of equipment,
Right,
and nobody's
instead of
watching anything that's going on in the room.
all the shadow figures could be
Right,
taken
exactly.
away from-
Anything can take place in the room.
And that's my biggest reason why I don't use a lot of equipment, especially for even long periods of time, because you miss everything else that's going on, and it's just not worth it. I mean, at times, if there's nothing else going on, then that might help get some things going, but for the most part, I don't.
When you went ahead and mentioned about the dowsing rods,
Mhm.
I have a friend. I can't really use them
Mhm.
because I have that issue of tremors.
Mhm.
But Dan Botts, and this is a real funny story. We were at the Historical Society, and it's one of those days when the dowsing rods were shining because there wasn't any real energy in the room. To me, that's my interpretation of the difference between, when all your other machines work. And I said it was simply the fact there wasn't enough energy for them, but they could move the rods.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And that's just my interpretation. And anyway, he was there and they were working, and he was like had his eyes real big, and they were moving, and he was whoa, because once again he's a big guy, and he's like ooh, and it's one of the first times he was using them, and all of a sudden we said, hey, I think maybe we should go, huh? And said, okay, we're gonna go. And he had them out like this, and they started going around like helicopter blades.
Yeah.
And it was like the spirit was very emphatic on their answer, which was don't or no. Right. And it was so funny.
Right.
And he never got over that. He's still, he's probably trying to laugh right now. I hope he don't laugh too hard.
Yeah, no. Don't laugh too
Or
hard
make you
because that'll
cough.
hurt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
make
don't
you
do
cough.
that. Don't do
Okay,
that.
But a
another,
lot of times when you're leaving, you say that, but it's true. I mean, how many times in an investigation where nothing's happening, and it's towards the end of the night, 11:30, quarter to 12, and we've been there 4 hours already. And I'm not one of those people that think I need to be there at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. In my bed, I need to be in at 2, 3 in the morning. So I'm sitting there and I'm gonna say, well, you know what? Nothing's happening. Nothing's taking place. Why don't we go? And the moment you say that, all of a sudden, all the equipment, the K2 starts going off, and the Avila starts going off, and you start seeing figures in the SLS, and it's like, okay, I guess they didn't want us to leave yet.
it's just remarkable the way that happens. I know something that I'd like to share about what happened at the roads right off the bat. First thing that evening, we got there at 5 o'clock and we were going to go grab our rooms, whichever room we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to Everett's room. So I had a little bag and I had my sleeping bag rolled up and I put it on the bed. And Sharon had said that something told her that something there was going to mess with us, mess with somebody. Okay. So everybody else is getting settled in and we're going to go out to supper, and we're going into the different rooms, and Devin and Sharon and Kelly, who's on here too. And I think it was Sharon and Kelly came down and I said, wow, I think Everett's here, and we're standing at the doorway, and I think Kelly says, well, yeah, it's really heavy in here. And all of a sudden the sleeping bag started to roll and rolled right off the bed.
Wow.
Yep.
And I
That's so
says,
cool.
and nobody had a camera.
Of course. Isn't that the way it always happens? And then even when you have a camera pointed at the right perfect place, yeah, they miss it all anyways. It's like,
Yes,
seriously.
You talk about Thornhaven Manor with that, and a light, which is kind of interesting when you started saying that. We were doing an investigation, and we were on the second floor, and there was Jen, myself, and another couple, Robin and Jake, were up there. And Jake and I were together in one room.
We were standing close by the
Yeah,
stairs.
and Robin and Jen were by the stairs up on the second floor. When you come up that big stairwell
yeah.
that's there, okay. So we're sitting there, and this flashlight light starts coming up the stairwell. So I'm thinking right away it was Steve, the guy who runs the place there, coming up the stairwell. And I guess they were thinking the same thing too. The light came all the way up to the top of the stairs and then just dissipated and was gone. And I was like, what the, and I got up and ran over the steps and nobody's there. And I'm sorry, I love Steve and I hope he's okay whatever happened with him. But he couldn't run that fast to get out of there from the time we saw that. And they came out and they were like, what was that light? And I was like, I don't know. We saw it too. And I'm looking, I was like, but you know what? I ain't worried, because we have like 3 different cameras that would pick up that hallway in different ways. So we'll get that light in that. No,
No.
nope. You could see us get up and run over to, not one bit of the light was there. They even ran outside to go look for
Yeah.
Steve.
We
And
found
Steve
him.
was sitting out way in the back by a fire pit, just sitting down relaxing by the fire pit.
Yeah. We have
Wow.
no idea. We have no idea who that was or anything else, because in as quick as it was there, it was gone. I mean, it was mind blowing.
See, we were one of the first paranormal groups ever in there, because Steve was he used to go to a chiropractor in Greenfield. The chiropractor was a member of our group.
Wow.
So while he was being adjusted one day, he said, man, this is really weird. I bought this house. And he says, I'm standing in the kitchen, and he says, and all of a sudden I hear someone, my name's Steve. And I turn around, yes, expecting someone to be there, and there's nobody there. And he goes, that's really weird. And he looked outside, nobody was there. So he went back to cleaning up that he was, and he heard his name again. And he went and looked again, there was nobody there. And finally he says, hey, I'm out of here. you were locked up and left. So he's like, I think I might need to get a paranormal investigator, group to go in there. So Adam pulls out his business card for the group and says, funny you should ask, okay? And hands him the card, okay? And actually, I think we investigated there twice before he was even charging money to be there. We were in there investigating.
That's just, that location, we went in there when it wasn't even cleaned up,
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah,
and you went in the back to the basement basically,
right. Yeah.
and you had those first two rooms that really sort of creep people out. We had gotten to the staircase that went up to the first floor, and it's pitch black, and Dale has a SLS camera out, and something was going on, and all of a sudden he went across and he's scanning. There's about 6 of us standing in this group. Everybody wants to see what's on the camera, and all of a sudden here comes this stick figure down the stairs, and he was about 2 stairs from the bottom, and all of a sudden one of the girls lets out this scream. It was a bat that had come in and flew between us and just scared the hell, and everybody just went up. Lucky the camera stayed in his hand.
Hey, you know what? I took one for the older people, the older investigators at the old jail in Blackford County. Dan's place that's there. Okay, we went walking. Have you ever been to the jail there?
No.
Okay, well, there's the catwalk that goes around the outside of the cells, and that's how you go into like the jail area there. And I went walking in. I led the crew going through, and this bat must have been inside there and came flying right down at it.
It was the guys. It wasn't the girls. The girls were not there. It's just the guys.
This old man ducked as fast as you could ever imagine. Went down to the floor, let it by. I got back up and said, "No problem, let's go."
Bats seemed to be a thing because we were at we were investigating a homeowner's house because of stuff going on, and out of their attic there was a bat too. It's like, oh my gosh, bats are everywhere.
But if you've never been there to the jail, we've actually caught spirits coming out of the wall.
Yeah.
Wow.
On video, coming out of the wall. And actually the bat thing that I'm talking about there.
And the smell of perfume when there's and none of us ladies actually wear perfume to investigations because this way we can't contaminate anything. And so we had gone to show the rest of the crew the speakeasy, and we came back and we went upstairs to the bedrooms to investigate, and there was the smell of women's perfume there. And that was the same night that we were in later on down in the jail, that there was a woman that came up through the floor and out the wall.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Yeah.
On video.
So they always talk about that being like residual.
Right.
And at one time there was a doorway where the person comes through, or a staircase that came up. Was that the case there at the jail?
Well,
there was a doorway that was there. The way that she came up and went past on the catwalk, there was an actual door there. So she just comes right up and walks right out. She had this long flowing dress, but it was just so weird because that was the same night that we had the perfume smell upstairs.
See, at one time in the jail, it's a small jail. It's only like 5 or 6 cells, but the warden lived there with his wife and kids.
And there was a separate part for the men, and then there was a part that was for women. But according to Dan, there were no women that ever stayed in that prison or that jail.
Oh, wow.
So it was really unusual to see something like that. And we've also picked up a little girl like talking and everything else. Yeah, I mean, she's saying all kinds of things. And there was one of the nights that we were there, I actually heard her talking right as I was walking through the catwalk, and she was having this little conversation too. So there is a little girl there, there is a woman there, and there is definitely a lot of men there for sure.
And there is something there that's not residual.
Yeah.
Because going upstairs to the second floor, one of the first times we were there, I have that sense of humor, as you saw probably that one meeting when I was in Florida that I
Right.
hung out for. But we were going upstairs, and I said, "Okay, ladies, be prepared. The men are coming upstairs now. Control yourselves when we get up there." And the voice on the EVP we picked up, clear as day, said, "Hire Steve Hodgson."
Yeah, it was a Mel's voice.
Yeah.
And
I mean, clear as day. It was a Class A EVP.
And
It was like,
then,
whoa.
and then there was a hat, like a ball cap, that was hanging on the banister as you're going up the stairs. And we had all brought in all the equipment. Nobody was in the area where this was at. And then when we came back through, as we were starting to put stuff out, the ball cap was laying on the side of the stairs, like somebody had taken it and just tossed
flung
it.
Yeah.
And so we're like, okay, did anybody come back through here, knock it off, throw it, whatever? Nobody done anything. So, I mean, we've had some pretty interesting things there. And then on video, standing in front of the living room that's there, it's almost like somebody takes a scarf and flings it over, but everybody is accounted for. We have no idea where this is coming from. Like,
and you actually
none.
see the shadow on the stairwell. You can see the light of the thing moving up and moving across. You can see that shadow on the wall.
Wow.
And stuff. And, one of the reasons, I mean, I have to give a disclaimer, to be fair. I do, that sounds crazy. I do the website
You do.
for them. Okay. But that's not why I'm mentioning the place. One of the reasons we love to go there once a year is because we always catch something on video.
Yeah.
Wow.
You could go 16, 17 investigations and get absolutely nothing on video. And then all of a sudden, we go here and we never walk away saying, "Oh, gee, we didn't get anything this time." There's always something that we pick up.
You see, that's why I was going to say next that I sort of went or favored spirit box communication
Mm-hmm.
when I first came in.
Mhm.
And then that element of controversy on interpretation, what they were saying, came into play, and it went to the side completely. I wasn't
Right.
going to deal with that.
We use a spirit box. Elvin likes to use it. He finally bought one of those chambers to play it through, which cuts out a lot of that white noise, which makes me want to pick the thing up and fling it against the wall of the room, because it drives me nuts. But even the Oviluses that we've used over the years, I think we're up to 5 now. Ovilus 5 has produced some pretty interesting things. I mean, we were in one place up the northern part of Indiana, and it actually said the homeowner's first and last name.
Wow.
It was in dictionary
And it was
mode.
in, yeah,
It was in dictionary mode when it actually said that. It wasn't even in
Yeah.
phonetic mode.
like, in other words, it
But
said
it actually-
John Smith.
It actually
was like,
said
wow.
it actually said the entire name, which was kind of interesting doing
So
that.
sort of emphatically said it.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So, there are times that, I mean, there's times you hear the same words over and over, like retards and stuff like so it gets annoying. I more use it for either white noise, or I even use the ping mode. I'll lay it down someplace, and if anything goes near it, it pings. I prefer that much better, because then I'm not watching the box. I'm watching what's going on in the hallways. And, lately I don't know what it is, maybe because of COVID, people weren't investigating that much.
Right.
And some of these, like Poachtown, Randolph County Infirmary, I mean, Randolph, we actually caught a black shadow at the end of the hall. I mean, in the picture.
Yeah.
That was down at the end in the basement. That was down the end of the hallway.
It was crazy, because when the guys were downstairs, I was on the floor above them, and whatever they were having going on down there, I was having the same experience up there, but I was by myself. They were all together, but I was investigating by myself. And so they would hear like a female's voice, and I would hear a female's voice, and they would be hearing it at the same time. So it was pretty crazy to have that experience too. But I know you have just recently had an amazing experience, and I would love for you to share that with all of us.
He's looking at you like, what?
He knows what
Be a
I'm
little more
talking
specific.
about. He knows exactly what I'm talking about at Rhodes.
At Rhodes,
Yes.
Igor's place there.
I would like to talk about it.
Please.
Okay, but I was going to say that I didn't know if it would be appropriate for a lot of the other people that have never been through
No,
anything like that.
please. Talk
Okay,
about it.
okay. I'm just want to let that be known that,
Mhm.
this is something that to me is really, really sacred, if you want to use the word, right up there. Anyway, we were up in the attic of the Rhodes. And where the timbers were in the back
Right.
section there where the preacher hung
Mhm.
himself. I had put a Periscope 360 on a chair back there. And that's the one that when it's all static electricity.
Right. Mhm.
So you don't have to worry about the EMFs. And, I've been waiting for the lights to go off and I'm watching the blue light. And I'm sitting here like this, staring right at it. And Devin's right here, and then Mike right. And all of a sudden the blue light starts doing this. And then it goes across and it looked like almost like one of those heart monitors.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I'm going, I can't believe it. Can you guys see that? No, I can't see it. Devin goes, no, we don't see no blue light. It's just right there. It's sitting there. And I said, oh, wait. And finally I said, Devin switches with me. And then all of a sudden she saw it. And I said, wow, that's really cool. So I go back to my seat again and we're sitting there. And then that's when it all started to happen. And the K2s, the lights are maxed out to red and they're doing all this crazy stuff. I had a phone app up and I had it over to the side and we went ahead to claim it, went ahead and took it and ran it over the top of the machine that was laying there, the K2. None of the lights were being affected by it. So, and all of a sudden it was like, well, there's somebody here. And could we have a name? And it was Jacob. And this conversation went on and we asked if there was anything we could do to help him. And then the conversation turned to the part about crossing over. And this took a period of time, this whole thing, because of the process of making sure that it was his intention.
To cross over, right.
It was his free will
Mhm.
that was coming into the situation and not just that. And so all of a sudden it left. And we sat there for a minute and it was like, what just happened? And all of a sudden the lights started to light up again. He said, is this Jacob? And then that's when Devin picked up the fact that no, it was somebody else.
Too
And
many times.
it was this young lady that, Devin said that she sort of was really angry about the fact that she felt that, we were trying to help and that he didn't need any help and he was fine there and all this. Well, finally he came in and came up and it was like, well, if you'd like to. And through her third eye, she went ahead and showed him the light and everything and said that there's your family. And he crossed. And it was like, I still have mixed feelings about the whole community outside because there's a lot of people that look at this a little differently.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
I never, out of all the investigations I've been to, there was only one place, and we're talking Mansfield, we're talking everything all the way post town. You know, Daryl never said anything about that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And here we were, and it was like it just happened. You know, and it was a good thing to happen. I'm very grateful I was there when this all went down. And I sort of assured him after Devin talks with him that this was, if this was a thing to do, you know, instead of, you know, to go see your family, you know, to just to support. And then it was like, wow, there's another gentleman that does a spirit box. And now I'm not talking about using spirit boxes on the table. I do the Estes.
Right.
I love that because there is no controversy with words
Right.
and that. But going back to that, when the end came up, it was like, you know, you just have to be careful, and people have to understand that there was no coaxing or bribing or whatever words you wanted to use, that
Right.
this was free will, and this person did want to go see his family, and he was given the opportunity. And you know, that poor girl's still there, and she's very upset.
Right.
But you know, to each his own. That's what the free will part was supposed to be all about.
Absolutely.
It's an experience you're never going to forget.
No, I'm not.
It's going to, and the reason I say that I know that for a fact is we had how many years ago? Probably about 8 or 9 years ago, where we did that one house, that one woman that she wasn't feeling very well. She had been on a bunch of meds, and her husband thought she was crazy, you know, because of the experience. And was it her mom or her aunt? They were both.
Her mom and her
Her
mom's
mom
friend.
and her mom's friend were at the investigation also. And there was somewhere in the area there had been a train wreck that on the property or something like that. It had been a big property, and they were using dowsing rods. Boy, to bring everything together here. And did you have the cross, or whose cross was it?
Mom. The mom.
The mom had a cross that she held up, and the dowsing rods like met with the cross in the middle. And all I can tell you is these lights, these blue and white lights, were shooting out of this dowsing rod. I mean, I've never seen something like that before. And I closed my eyes, and I think we all had our eyes closed in the room. And I was trying to open my eyes because the light was so bright, because we were actually seeing the light, and you're not supposed to be looking in the light. I mean, it actually was burning your eyes after a bit. And it was actually better opening our eyes than was with your eyes closed. But we actually saw a bunch of people go to that light
Wow.
and go into the light. We didn't see them anymore. And then just like that, the light was gone. And
I
we
know.
all sat there and nobody said a word for probably about a minute or two, because we were all like, what the heck? What, you know, I mean, I knew what I had seen and what had just happened, but you could also feel it in your heart, what had just happened. And unless people experience that, a lot of the investigators, and I'm not knocking anybody or anything, but a lot of investigators do not see more into what's out there. They're watching TV and they're thinking that it's fun to do. And I've seen too many people screw up people's homes and everything else because they think they know what they're doing. And really, you know what? I'm not saying I know what I'm doing. I've been doing it 45 years. I don't know what I'm doing either. Really. I can tell you that this is the cap for my water bottle. I can hold it in my hand. I can tell you how much it weighs, what it's made out of. Okay. And in this hand, here's a spirit or a ghost. I have no idea. I just know what we're doing works most of the times. And with, that's our exploring the unknown. We're exploring that unknown. We want to know more about what's there. It's great having Jen go into, because you got Devin and you got Scotty, okay, that can go into a place and pick up stuff right
And
away.
Sharon.
Right.
Sharon.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
and so is
Right.
Greg.
Okay. But I'm saying,
Greg,
but you
Sharon.
know,
Greg
Sharon.
can do this too.
Yeah.
There's a lot
Right.
of us that can do
but I'm
this.
saying, but you know what that's like to be able to go in there and then to determine what's there before we get there, before we start investigating. Like Jen will tell us where to put the cameras. Okay, she's told me where to put them a couple of times too. But I mean, but where to set up the cameras?
That's cheating.
Well, I mean,
Hey,
what
well,
rooms have the
I-
most feeling and activity to them?
Yeah.
The point of everybody, whoever's watching, knowing that this isn't something that happens every day.
No,
And there's not a group
Yeah.
around that's going to go into an investigation with the sole idea of going ahead and finding somebody and having this happen.
right.
Yeah. And I wanted you to share that because I am so proud of both of you. I mean, I love hearing that. I could hear that 100 times and still be just as excited for both of you at the first time I heard it and clear through to the last. I mean, it's just I love it.
I'm still at the magnitude of it. Okay.
Mhm.
You'll be always will.
That's where that is with me. And I may come across as not as happy as I should be or jubilant. I am inside, but it's just, oh my
It's a
God.
lot- It's a lot to process.
Oh, it's so,
It's
I'm still not
amazing.
done. I'm not even halfway there.
I get it. I love it. Like I said, I've heard it, I heard it before and I had just as much excitement hearing it tonight as I did the first time that I heard it. And I know even Devin and I talked even before Monday night. So I kind of knew a little bit about it. And, I was excited for her then and excited for you. And I love it. I think it's
At the end, what I posted about the only thing better than what we experienced would have been for everybody that was in that building at that time to experience it also,
Mhm.
right.
and that would have been, it's still the crowning, you can't get any better than that.
Right.
I mean, and I'm not saying because I was there, I was a support.
Right.
You
Can
know,
you
those-
imagine if everybody was in there, the amount of energy in that space? Oh my gosh, like it would have been off the charts. That would have been so
But you know
cool.
what? All your energy would not compare with that light's energy. That once that
Okay.
light were to come on, because I know one thing: I've never ever to this day felt something as intense and strong and deep as I did when I saw that light. I mean, I haven't talked about it in probably about 5-6 years, but when I closed my eyes, it was absolutely amazing. And for those who say, in the paranormal, we don't know what we're doing. We may not 100%, but we're getting better at it. Our understanding of it is getting better. Everybody working together is actually helping for the first time, because I think what happened was all those people who jumped on the bandwagon. I mean, come on, if you look 3 years ago in Indiana, the number of paranormal groups, what was it? It was like 60, 65 groups
Yeah, there's a lot
in the state of Indiana. You look at it now, there's about four or five, because people have gotten out of it. They don't, TV sort of waned off a little bit on it, and people have stopped doing it, which is good because I'm glad it got them out. The serious people are still in the field.
When we were talking about that, Jen and Steve, I'm not only dealing with the magnitude of it, I also have a question of, and this happened to me quite a few times in my life, but why was I chosen to be there.
Well,
And
it was meant for you to experience so that, I mean, in my thoughts, it's so that you can share this with other people and let them know that even though you leave this world, you still have free will and you can decide if you want to go to that next level or not. You know, a lot of people think, oh no, you know, you don't have free will, that whatever happens, happens to you. You go here or you go there, and that's not the case.
yeah, that's the key phrase, free will.
Absolutely.
You know, there's always going to be people questioning what's on the other side. You know, I mean, we could go 1,000 different theories, but at least it lets people realize there is something else. Okay, and we're all experiencing that something else. I mean, you know, when we do a library presentation, one of the first things I do is I ask people in a room, by a show of hands, how many people believe in the paranormal, have had some experience in it? And usually, what, 96, 97% of the people raise their hands. And I look at the 2 or 3 that didn't, and I say, this presentation is really for you. I was like, because I'm not going to try to change your mind. I just want you to be open that there's a possibility that there is something else.
I got to catch up real fast here on some of these comments. Danny Bot says, you may be catching up to me, Greg. Lost about 40 pounds. After the story said, not laughing, but a big smile. I'm okay. Nida says, hey there. Sorry I'm late. Julie O'Mara Webster says, hi, guys.
She's part of our
Julie.
paranormal group.
Okay, and then Devin says, it was an amazing night. Thank you, Greg and Jen, for the show. But if you'd like to stay for a few extra minutes, that's fine with me. You know, there's still a lot to talk about, I think. And, you know, when you have people like you on, it's like, you don't want to say goodnight.
And the time flies quick.
Right.
We've been on shows with, actually, in Scotland there's Kev Baker, who puts us on with Bill Bean and stuff all the time. And all of a sudden, you know, we do 2 1-hour segments. And when we're towards the end of the second hour, it's like, really? You know, we've gotten 2 hours already? Because when like-minded people are talking about the paranormal, time just gets turned off, you know.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, everybody, you know, if you got any questions, pop them in there.
Ask it on Facebook.
It's like,
Greg, you were saying, why were you chosen? My question to you is, why not you? Why not? You're the perfect person for that. And I'm absolutely over the moon thrilled that you had that experience.
Okay, I appreciate it. I just, you know, sometimes I'm not a guy that takes a lot of slaps on the back and praise and stuff like that. I just keep my nose straight.
Right.
I learned that from when I was a kid. So, and that's the way I approach things.
Yeah.
Well,
but, you know,
I can tell you,
it was absolutely unbelievable. And it's something that I, like Steve said, I won't forget.
No, you won't, you know.
But to share it with everybody and, you know, especially to talk to Devin about it because of her amazing talents. And it's just like,
absolutely.
Boy, you know, let's see. Oh, no, that's President Trump.
Okay.
We don't want to
calling you for advice again. Okay.
Nida
But
says
this happened at Rhodes Hotel, right? You said,
yes.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Igor, I'm sorry. My couch is a close friend of ours, but I ended up. I'm sorry, Mike. I gave you the name Igor because during the night we'd be sitting, like if we took a break in the main room there, and all of a sudden Igor would open up that wall bookcase and come out from behind the bookcase. So he got the name Igor from me, and I've never let it go.
I was talking to, this was at Chicago, the last Paracon, and I was talking to a couple people that came up, and we were talking about locations, and I mentioned the roads, and it was like, oh yeah, we were there. And I says, do you know my couch? He says, he showed up out of nowhere. It was like, close the door real fast. And
Yeah.
he's standing there and you wouldn't know.
Right?
It's like, be like, what kind of magic magician is this guy?
I love
He's
it. I
yeah,
love it.
Mike's got a good sense of humor too,
Yeah.
and he's a really, really nice guy. We've known Mike now for a number of years, and he's a really the man has a heart of gold.
And he's going through some real
Yeah, bad
difficulties
times.
right now.
I know that.
Yes.
And everybody's praying for him. So that's the best we can do.
Yeah,
Yes.
And he, when I left, I said, and he said, well, I'll get through that stuff and then I'll see you later on. And I just said, great.
and he will.
Mhm.
The self pity. We're all going to have that every once in a while. It's like, why me? Why is this happening to me again? But it only makes him stronger and makes his resolve that much stronger. And of course, you questioned in the beginning, he's in pain. So he's not really thinking as straight as he normally
Right.
would. But he'll stand up and he will say, hey, I got this.
Yeah.
And he'll be okay.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of good people behind him.
All the paranormal groups, that go out and investigate. And we all come into these locations and we get to meet these unbelievable people
Mhm.
that have put forth that kind of effort to,
Robin Terry, you got Daryl Westman.
Yes. And speaking of, I will just say it again. 2 super groups cannot be in the same state at the same
Oh,
time investigating on the same night.
Shoot, never again. I don't want to be in any state that Scotty's in investigating the same evening because we almost died at Ashmore Estates because of that night. You guys were investigating
He's
someplace.
joking about dying, but
No, you guys were investigating someplace there, and we were at Ashmore. And in the middle of the night, when we were investigating there, the weather took a turn.
he knows it was
For the
raining and
worst.
storming there too.
Yeah, but I mean, all of a sudden we're sitting there, and you can see out in the field, and you see the lightning, no big deal. Then all of a sudden the wind started. Now, it was myself, Elvin, and Paul, Julie's husband. Okay, and we're sitting inside this room on the 2nd floor upstairs, or 3rd floor, whatever you want to call it, and 3rd floor. And there's this big metal door. There's a bed frame that's like a metal bed frame in the middle of the room. It's like a double room. And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, this wind took that metal door from completely wide open and slammed it shut. Okay, I jumped about 15 feet because it was like, what the heck was that? Okay, but the wind had kicked up. I mean, it was almost hurricane force. And we had to run around to every single window in that building and close the windows because we had all the windows open. Okay, so here's 3 of us scrambling, taking one side of the hallway and everything, trying to close every single window. And I got downstairs. I said, "This is Scotty's fault."
he probably did it on purpose.
I know he did. Okay, it's Scotty's fault. Okay?
Yeah, so it's like 2 super groups cannot be in the same state at the same time doing an investigation.
Mr. White Lightning
I mean,
himself.
we were just like a couple hours from each other, so
We
It
were
was wild. It was a wild night. Let me tell you, Ashmore Estates is a great place to investigate. And what was the mansion we went to? It's a Cheney Mansion?
Yeah.
Cheney Mansion, which is up there, which was really interesting place in itself.
Awesome. I know I worked with a friend of mine from GRS, Chuck Williams,
Mhm.
who's a documentary filmmaker, and he did the about the train crash of 1917, the circus train crash,
Mhm.
where all the circus performers were killed, and this was in Gary, Indiana, and they were all interred up there at Showman's Rest, up by Brookfield Zoo.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been around that area?
No.
We don't want to go around by Gary, Indiana, if we don't have to.
Unbelievable area, but we were there in the middle of the night. We were up at 2:30 and went to go there to do the filming, and we were filming and we were on the tracks, and at the anniversary, They had a train that came through with its bell dinging on the 100th anniversary.
Oh, cool.
No.
And that was another one of those things that really stands out in my memory of things that,
Right.
you know, and here we're just the crew, the film crew and the investigators, and nobody else is there. And it's just like, wow, because the stories of that were just
Right.
horrendous, to say
Wow.
the least.
That's so cool. I mean, right now, I mean, there's a lot of places I'm sure we don't want to be in the world, but I would love to see that one day. Greg, you'll have to take us and show us where that's at, because that would be really cool.
I mean,
I'll show you on film.
All right.
right now, there's a place I'd like to be in the world. It's called the Bahamas. Okay.
And
Laying on the
now that
ocean.
it's turning cold again.
Yeah. Well,
I got, hey, if you guys got any questions or not? If you don't,
if you have any questions, well, it's the time to answer them.
Nida says you were chosen because of your open mind.
That's right. I agree, Nida. He's an awesome man and he doesn't realize it.
She's a great girl.
She is.
But that whole group up there, you know, every time we get on there on Monday nights, it's like old home week.
Yep. Yep. It's family.
And we have our star seeds, and which is really, that's, you know, if somebody comes out, you know, like his name's Reggie, and Reggie said, I'm a star seed, you know.
Absolutely.
And I had to really go ahead and start looking through things to try to figure out what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not going to go ahead and say, hey, Reggie, what does that mean?
Right. But I'm sure he would answer it without, not even blinking an eye.
See, I'm from New York. I would say, and that means what? You know, that's not ignorant. I just don't know. Okay, I'm asking.
You know, GRS had an old guy, and still, well, he calls himself a free agent now, and his name is Stan Soho, and he's the one that wore that straw hat all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You'd see him; he's like a scarecrow, pretty skinny, and we brought him back to the roads.
Oh, cool.
And then when I found out he's never been to the roads.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And he's been with Dale forever as a sidekick, driving around with Dale every place that Dale would go. Stan would go with him. We're at Old South Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
It was the second time I was there. His hat was there. He had ripped a hole out of it. So all the people that were with me from GRS had told me about this, and I was with a little group of 2 or 3 because I know the owner of Old South, Ronnie D. And I came back to him and I says, you know, I saw your hat. Your hat's there. And he said, oh man, did you get a picture? I said, no, I didn't get a picture, Stan. So this last time we all went there, it was GRS. And then we had, Kelly was the new one there. This was her first year, and she does a great job. And we got into there, and it was like, the hat was up there, take pictures. Everybody's taking pictures of this hat just to show Stanley. He must have got about 100 pictures of his hat.
That's so sweet, though.
That it's still there.
Cool.
And dowsing rods was the second time that Mike Wright, who was with us this last time, we couldn't find the hat. The hat disappeared. I went up there first thing, and the hat wasn't where it was. It disappeared. This was 2 times ago. And I went back. I couldn't find it. Third day, the dowsing rods are doing all the magic. And we were up on the 3rd floor, and I said to Mike, I says, well, as long as those are working, let's ask to show us where the dowsing rods or where the hat is.
Where the hat is, right.
And so all of a sudden, we end up going out into the hallway, and we're all the way on the other side of the third floor. And it took us all the way across into the room and pointed at the cabinet. And we're standing there looking at the cabinet, and we couldn't see it. It was behind something up on top of the top shelf. And it was like, how does that happen?
Something wanted you to know where it was.
Protecting the hat so nobody else got it.
So when this is all over, this COVID thing, and people are back to normal, do you have any plans on doing anything really, really cool? Any destinations that you really want to?
We are going on an investigation with you. That's just what I'm gonna do.
I want to go with that guy behind him.
Yeah,
That guy's head and shoulders above the rest there.
that's supposed to be an alien.
I know that.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not
Okay.
even close. I got sold a bad bill of goods.
Okay.
So I stuck him there, and every once in a while he'll knock himself off the shelf, and
Sure, he knocked himself off the shelf.
he's
There's
a little
no
lower.
pink there. There's no pink today.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, that part.
Well, you see, we there are a number of places our group constantly comes up with places they want to investigate. Elvin especially is really good. And I think
Paul
Julie
does
sent
too.
us too. Yeah.
Paul does too.
Yeah, it sent us someplace in Tennessee.
But me personally, what I want to do is I want to go investigate with you, and I want to investigate with Devin. I'm just saying, and everybody else, and Sharon and Nida. So that that's my plan.
That's awesome. Just they're great. And
The only rule I have is Scotty must keep his pants on. I've heard about that.
I've already seen it, so it's.
I don't want to see it, okay? But he must keep his pants on.
We were
I
at
know
the
you're probably listening, Scotty. Mr. White Lightning, keep your pants on.
we were at the Pollock Hospital when he did that,
Yeah.
Mhm.
because we brought up Scott Grunwald,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and it was like, oh yeah, well I could do it one better, and it was like,
Yeah. Somebody dared him to do it. And it's like, OMG, don't do that.
Scott's an interesting character.
yes.
We've met him on a number of occasions, had a long talk with him one night. Serious talk, not off deep end. And really, really nice guy. Really, really is.
Hey, what happened at Mid-South stays at Mid-South.
Just like every other Paragon.
No, that was
exactly.
they put us in a room. I
Doesn't
don't know
make
if you ever heard the story. We stayed for the weekend at one Paracon, and Robbie Thomas was there, the psychic medium who we know, and his wife and stuff. And so we said, okay, we'll stay. So we get up to the hotel, we get into the room, and as soon as we walk into the room, I'm like, the hell is that smell? I mean, it was like smack in the face.
A person had actually died in that room, and they didn't clean it properly, and they rented it back out. And so Steve's like, well, let's go downstairs and we'll tell them, and maybe they can spray something in the room. And I said, spraying the room is not going to get rid of the smell.
They ended up moving us a couple of rooms down. But I mean, it was down at the front desk. I was like, it smells like someone died in the room. And with a serious faced woman says, yeah, about 2 days ago, we found someone that they hadn't checked out, and we went to look, and they had died into the room. And I was like, and you haven't opened the windows, you haven't sprayed down that room, nothing, and you want to give it to us on top of that?
We told Robbie, and Robbie's like, and you had them switch rooms. And I was like, nope, Steve just wants him to go spray something in the room. He's like, you gotta have them.
Hey, I figured it might be an interesting night. You have to go back up to investigate,
So finally they did move us.
Everybody ends up like out of Silence of the Lamb with that little white stuff, paste that you put underneath your nose.
Robbie could have come up. There was the boots were there. They could have come up. I mean, I mean, that night there was the Mountain Men were there. Okay, you know the TV show that was on, the Mountain
Yeah.
Men.
The moonshine was flowing.
They had the real moonshine
Oh,
that was there, and all I remember, I mean, I didn't drink any, but all I remember about that night was Christopher Booth had those light up sneakers. You know, when you step down, the base lights up on the sneakers, and he was trashed. Okay, and all you could see was just lights going all over the room as he was stumbling all over the place that was there. And Robbie was was enjoying the shots very, very well prior to that. And it was an interesting night. It really was.
Julie says our teams need to combine.
Yeah. Well, we will
Yes.
do. You know, we should be. You know, our problems, and I don't know if it hits you a lot. A lot of these places want 10, 15 people. You know, and that sometimes means, you know, if we only have 6 or 7, then we're paying for 10. You know, and it's like, you know, now $30 a person becomes $60 a person.
Right.
You know, so you know there are places big enough that where we're not going to be on top of each other. We can spread out and stuff, and I have zero problems with that. I really do. You know, I actually enjoy it because I like to see the same way you would probably like to see how we investigate, vice versa. You know, because who says anybody? I shouldn't say that. We were on an investigation once, and the homeowner turned to us and said, "That's not the way you do it."
Oh, come on.
I'm
No,
not. I'm
seriously.
not kidding you. And I looked at them and I was like, "Excuse me?" And they're like, "No, on TV." I
Yeah,
was
it's
like,
like that's
"That's
not how they do it on Ghost
television,
Hunters.
okay?" I was like, "Do not stop with me, okay? That's television."
You should have went right over and gone ahead and grabbed the cable from the TV and ripped it out of the wall.
Hey, you know, I'm really close friends with Scott Tepperman. He was
Okay.
from Ghost Hunters International.
Right.
Scott and Jim O'Rear. Okay, we met Jim years ago, and you know, I talk to them actually almost every day, you know, on Facebook. But you know, even he said, you know, it's TV. You know, when they did my favorite place, if everybody asked me where's the one place you'd want to investigate in the world, it would be Dracula's castle in Romania. I think I'd really like to go there. I think it just from seeing everything, it's an awesome looking place. And what Scott was telling me was they were only allowed to investigate in certain rooms. And while they were filming a scene, him and Joe Chin, who's hysterical. If you've never met, you met Joe Chin at all?
No, not
Yes.
really, but I know.
Oh,
what you're
Joe
talking
is
about.
he is one of the funniest people you ever want to meet. Okay, we get along great with Joe. But they went strolling into another room, and all this activity started happening. And they went to the producers and said, "Hey, we should be investigating in here because you know A, B, and C is happening in here." And it's like we can't. We're not allowed to film in there. The people on the castle wouldn't let them film in those rooms. So
That's where they would go
yeah,
Mhm. Absolutely.
if they were being bothered.
yeah. Well, every place, if you leave a room, like an attic, for instance, and you don't do something or have something up in the attic, they're just going to go sit up in the attic all night until you leave. I mean, really. You know, and now look at me. I mean, you know, I'm really at 62 and 235 pounds. I'm not going to be climbing up into attic holes. Okay, that just isn't happening anymore. There's younger people in the group. I've done my time. They can go and climb up, but somebody always goes and checks it out. You know, I don't care how hot it is. What was the place in
Oh God.
Indianapolis? That house that got torn
Hannah
down.
House. Hannah House.
No, not Hannah. We've been Hannah House is okay. Though there was a house, it was an
I don't
old
know.
beat up house that was in the middle of friggin' nowhere. And we investigated in there. And when you went up to the second floor, the temperature went to about 116 degrees.
I don't remember the name of it, but I know what you're talking about. It
Yeah.
was. We couldn't investigate.
I
because
walked
all
up
was
there.
hot.
And they said, "Come up." And I walked up there and said, "I'll wait downstairs." And I went back downstairs. I couldn't take it. It was hot. I mean, instantaneously.
Julie was there, so maybe
Yeah.
she can.
Hey, Julie, if you remember the name of the place, type it in so Greg can tell us the name of the property.
Were you guys at Madison Seminary?
No, we have not investigated.
No, we have
there.
not been there yet.
That's another one with a huge attic.
Mhm.
And we were there at the same kind of time that you guys were doing that. And, you know, it was like, you know, how the sweat comes right out of your pores.
Yes.
One of the times we took the Greensburg Daily News, who I used to write for and stuff, we took them to the jail up in Hartford City in Blackford County there. And we were sitting in the jail cells, you know, to start off, you know, the investigation. And it was hot. It was one of those like 103-degree summer days. And we would sit there and all you could hear was the sweat hitting the floor that was pouring off of all our foreheads.
Yeah.
Julie says Reverend Akers.
Yes.
Yes, Reverend Akers.
Yes,
That was the name of
the
the place.
place.
And then
Thank you, Julie.
she says horrible.
Yes,
Yes.
it absolutely was. It was just, oh my gosh. It was cooler outside than it was inside the building, inside the house. Yeah. It's really
Yeah,
hot.
there's a couple of places I've been to I just don't want to go back to. There's a couple of places I was just watching Edinburgh Manor. I think that's in New York, upstate New York, which is
Edinburgh's in Iowa.
Iowa, right? Okay, right. What was the two places we did in New York, up by Niagara Falls? There was a sanatorium, and there was
Edgewood. It was Edgewood Sanatorium, and it's supposed to be the most haunted place in America. It's in New York.
We did two of them. It began with an S, the area we were up in. And Julie, again, if you remember, you know, we've done. I'm sorry, I've done about 150 places. I don't remember anymore.
We're suffering from brain farts, Julie.
Yes, exactly. But I was watching tonight, believe it or not, while I was killing time before this, in Edinburgh Manor, Ghost Adventures. They were showing that you know their episode there.
That was today.
Yeah. I was watching that earlier. Yep. So
yeah, that's a great place too.
Yes, when we were there, Julie and Shauna and I walked across the street to the graveyard.
Yeah.
And we were looking at all of the headstones, and so I just, you know, I'm like, if there's anybody here with us, you're more than welcome to come back over and visit us at the manor. And so we walked back across the street, and Elvin had picked up a name, and it was actually the same name as what I had taken a picture of one of the headstones. So
Wow.
that was
one of the places in New York was Wildwood Sanatorium.
Yeah.
That was one of them.
Hinsdale House.
Hinsdale House was the other one.
That's
right.
Julie.
Wildwood and Hinsdale House.
Yes.
Yep. Both, you know, phenomenal places. See, when we go away, like even once a year, we go up to Randolph County, and we'll do, you know, the Randolph County Infirmary that's there. You know, we do the infirmary, and also now you got the mansion, the General Stone Mansion that's there too.
Wow.
So we do it as a weekend. We try to go to a place and do two of them. And that's what we did in New York. We actually went up early, went to Niagara Falls. As someone who was born and raised in New York, I had never been to Niagara Falls in my life. Never went up there. So it was nice actually to see it for the first time. Yeah, I like the Canadian side better than the American side. There was a little more to do. And, you know, then we all went and stayed at a hotel. Both places were 5 minutes away from the hotel.
Wow.
That we did. So, you know, we'd do the one night, go back. They went someplace Saturday morning, and then Saturday night we did the other place, and then Sunday we were back home at 6-7 hours later.
So what's one place that you want to investigate, Greg?
I probably have to say Winchester House.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be a cool place to investigate.
What was the place on after Ghost Adventures? After they did Edinburgh Manor, they went to a place with
Skinwalker Ranch.
Skinwalker Ranch.
Okay.
Now, I watched the series, Skinwalker Ranch. I almost like was one of those obsessed one episode after another. I don't know if you've seen the show. There's the
Was that
second
the one where the guy had the 16? He had an M16 with him.
Yes, all the time. Well, it is one of those places that I don't know if it's paranormal. I personally think it's alien that's going on there. The stuff that goes on in that ranch is absolutely incredible. And, Ghost Adventures was on the Indian side of it, over the mountain. I want to go to the other side, the Skinwalker Ranch. I'd love to know what's going on there.
Dave Schrader was there, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yep.
Didn't they do that whole episode where he's up in the
Mhm.
mountains and wanted to get beamed up?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, let me tell you, watching the stuff that I watched on that series, I was kind of impressed with some of the stuff I see. And it's me, I'm not, maybe Curse of Oak Island. I keep thinking maybe these poor fools are going to make some of their millions back if they find something. It just makes it interesting. It's entertainment to me more than anything. Holy
We all-
shit, holy, okay.
Yeah, we all watched it. We've all been suckered into it
Uh-huh.
for all those years.
There's another episode.
Yeah,
There's another season this year.
yep. And they said they find gold.
They have found a couple of pieces of gold.
Oh
They haven't
no!
found.
I want
gold.
gold. I want big.
Yeah,
chests
no,
of
they
gold.
haven't found the treasure. Okay, and a lot of people say it's not even there anymore. That it was taken years ago.
Wow.
So but I mean, these places are all interesting to go to. I don't care where it is, as long as it's really got paranormal activity. Not because it's an old abandoned place. You say, gee, there must be something going on there. Not necessarily.
I know if you compare New Orleans with Key West,
Mhm.
I've been to Key West. I have a brother-in-law that's down in the Keys, and we'd go into Key West, and I'm the one that wants to do the tours, and
Mhm.
it's like, and I never really got to do it, but some of the houses down there are phenomenal. You've got Ernest Hemingway's little house down there, right?
Mhm.
And you've got the beginning of Pan Am, wasn't it Pan Am? That's where their first office was there,
Right, it was down there. Right. Mhm.
around the corner there, and that there's a restaurant right by it. But I always looked at them as, I could see that influence that happened in New Orleans with all the other elements, the voodoo and all that. I could see that happening in that area of Key West too, but it never showed up for me.
I never was very impressed with New Orleans. We went down there a few years ago, and
2 years ago.
yeah, it's too commercialized. Everything, and it's like this tours go. Every tour seems to go to the same place. So a different cemetery. Well, you know what? If I've seen one cemetery, I've seen 15. I mean, really don't want to keep going around to the same places. And I'm not one that drinks that much, or at least when I have to walk. So
There's a guy by the name of Aubrey who's in this other group that I belong to on the Fortean Society. And it's singular 40, and it's up out of Madison. And he lives down in southern Georgia, right on the Florida border.
Mhm.
And they've got some cemeteries down there that will knock your socks off. They have those brick walls around the family plots
Mhm.
that go up about 3 foot high,
Oh wow.
and that kind of thing. And they're intermixed with the wrought iron and that kind of thing. And it just gives off that air that, like, you don't come inside my walls.
Oh wow.
See
I
how
would
fun-
love to see them. I mean, I love like
Wow.
I've always loved like graveyards and cemeteries ever since
Mhm.
I was a kid. And we would go to whenever we would go to Spring Mill, that was like the big thing. It was like that's where I wanted to go.
See, that's what I'm saying. From a historical, I would go to one of those places. I'd love to see it, but not to investigate. I have this problem with investigating outside because you can cough 3 miles away, and if you're outside, it sounds like you're right there to somebody, and you can't control. Not that we can really control inside of a home or something, but we have a better control over what the sound is than if you're outside. You're
Well,
just wide open to the
you know,
outside.
that's becoming a joke at Gettysburg now
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
because of the younger generation has no idea, and they'll be out in the middle of like where Pickett's charge was,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll be screaming and yelling out there, running around in the dark, and you're trying to do an investigation, and it's like
Yeah.
it doesn't
A
cut
friend
it.
of mine, she actually goes there because she has family that lives there, but one of her friends took her to a place and she had some pretty cool experiences there. I mean, she actually showed me the photos from that because somebody else was taking the pictures of her, and it's just absolutely mind blowing as to what happened there. And I can't remember the name of the place that she said it was. I would have to go back and look, but it's an incredible area. I mean, they weren't really doing like an investigation. They were just kind of checking things out and showing people around because there was other people with her, and she had an amazing experience. She's like, Jen, I need you to look at these. But yeah, it was pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
That's where I started
Yeah.
as a kid,
Oh yeah.
and we went back the first time I went back as an old fart. I went back there and I tried to find the place,
Mm-hmm.
and I was complicating it, and I ended up going General his last name Reynolds was the first general killed in the battle.
Oh wow.
And it was a skirmish. The Confederates were in the trees, and the North was pushing at them, and they were in this heated gun battle. And Reynolds was on his horse and had his sword up, and he was going back and forth. And his aide kept on telling him, "You got to get down off your horse because they're going to be shooting at you." And it was like, I'm with my men. And then it happened.
Wow.
And that same spot was where when I was a kid and my mother was in the hospital. She had polio. It was my father, my uncle, and my sister. And I was 10, and the wind would die down, and all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom. And you could hear pistol rounds going off and screaming, horses, the works. You could hear the incendiaries that they were up like this compared to the other rounds. And then the wind would pick up and it would go away. And it did it. We were there for about half a day, and it continued on like that whole period. And as we left, that was like 1959. And as we left, my dad ran into a park ranger and asked him about it. Because back then they didn't do reenactments.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was like Mark Nesbitt, who does.
Yeah, we know Mark very well.
Well, I had talked to him about this, what I'm talking about now. And he says that was one of the earliest ones he had heard of. It was 59. But it's just it's a wonderful place from the fact that I like to go there just because I like to bond with the guys that, we're all in the service.
Right.
Right.
And thank you for your service, by the way.
Oh,
Well, it still always needs to be said.
yes, I appreciate it. Thank you. But, that's the kind of thing that people have to remember. I mean, everybody, if anything ever happens in this country, The one thing I think they should make mandatory is they should have everybody go to Gettysburg. As it was, without any of this wanting to tear down any of the statues,
Mhm.
because those guys all bled too.
Mhm.
And there are no traitors to me, but that's just how I look at it.
Right.
You know, they're all brothers, every one of them, and anybody that served the same way. And they were all in the trees when I was down in that triangular field, and they were with me
Absolutely.
that night, and it was just an awesome experience there.
Right.
And I hate any other questions or anything you'd like to bring up.
I was going to joke. I was going to say, after Reynolds got killed, was that a rap? Your Reynolds rap?
I'll
Sorry,
slap him later.
It's been a long night.
I
That's
will
okay.
slap him later for you.
I appreciate the fact that we've all been on here for an hour and 40 minutes.
Hasn't
I
been. I
know.
don't even have a clock, so
And I know Kelly wants to go to bed probably. It's her birthday and she's trying to
Happy birthday,
happy
Kelly.
birthday.
monitor everything that we're doing on here. So, and the only other thing I'll say is that, you know, on Monday night at 6:30, we have Psychics Unite. And Tuesday, Sharon's on at 6 o'clock with her Oracle card readings. And Scotty's on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock with his ghost stories. And then I'm on Friday like this, and we support Lost Limbs
Mhm.
and my couch.
Absolutely.
So
And
it's
if
been
people want to investigate, go up to Rhodes Hotel.
right.
That's
It's been
the
a-
place to be.
It's been an awesome experience tonight with you two.
It's been awesome being
I
with
finally got to talk with you, Steve,
you. Mhm.
and Jen is forever.
Always,
And
we're family.
Always.
We are family. We are so family. You're stuck with me for life.
That's okay. The only thing I'm missing is these.
Hey, and I promise you, when I see you, you will get plenty of those because I'm all about hugging people.
Okay.
So,
It's been a pleasure.
Well, thanks for having us on.
Down
Take
the
care,
road,
Kelly.
we'll try to go ahead and get back together.
We definitely
yes,
will.
absolutely.
Have a
Okay.
great evening.
Okay. Good night, you guys.
Okay.
Thank
night,
you.
bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye bye.